Alright, hi. I'm Danilee. I'm a local Lakewoodite poet. And here's some poetry, since that's what the poets do in front of microphones, or so I'm told. A lot of my poems kind of follow themes that have to do with sort of the sequences of my life. And I quit smoking 3 weeks ago, so I've written a lot of poetry about that, because therapeutic and whatnot. So this is the poem that I wrote the night I quit smoking, while smoking my last cigarette, and it's called I Love You. From the title and the content, many people don't think I stand a chance, but I do, really. Trust me. It's called I Love You. Yes, I loved you. And I love you still. Loved everything about you. Loved the way you smelled. Loved the way you tasted. Loved the way you felt between my fingertips, between my lips, and deep inside my throat, my lungs. I loved the way I couldn't get enough of you. I loved watching you dance. I loved the way that I held you, but I was yours. I loved the way you hurt me. Loved, even, yes, loved the way you were killing me. Yes, I think that's what I loved most of all. But now, I love the way we part. I love the way you burn into ashes. I love the way I put you out, and now, I love the way you're gone.
Snap.
Yes, snapping is awesome. I love that. I feel like not enough open mic poetry readings have people who snap at them. Because it's cool.
Oh my god.
And I've been reading the Tao Te Ching a lot lately, and so this was kind of inspired by some of the philosophy in that. It's called quitting. All I must do is nothing. No effort is required. This task requires only non-action, only not doing of one particular thing. How can a task be hard when there is nothing to be done? How can it be difficult to refrain, to let be? And yet this act of abstaining from what was once habit, of turning from the path that one once followed, is the great act of consciousness, though it is not bodily an act at all. It is a choice which must be made, to accept an absence, to allow the presence of void. This one is called Jonesing. I've been doing a lot of that. I want instant gratification now. A fix, a buzz, a high, a right now, a tomorrow doesn't matter. I want a fucking cigarette. I want a little death, but just a little. Want now, want fast, want something, anything I can latch hold of. Want to shoot my veins full of this moment, pump my endocrine system full of today, and forget about don't worry about the consequences of tomorrow. I want consumable, I want combustible, I want disposable, I want easy access, I want user-friendly, I want simplified, I want vulgarized, I want brainstem, knee-jerk, gut reaction, straight through the nervous system, stimulation on a basic level. I want something that requires no effort, no comprehension, no thought, no mind, never mind, just never mind. I want solid, earthly, basic, form over function, multiplied by fiction, to help me sleep at night and not worry about what I have to look at in the mirror in the morning. I want instant gratification, and I want it now. And this last one has absolutely nothing to do with smoking. This was inspired by, I was talking to my neighbor the other day, and she has this basil plant growing on her porch, and it's starting to form these little purple flowers on it. And she said that the person who gave her the basil plant said that you have to be careful with it because if you let it flower, then the leaves sort of lose their oils, they make it good for cooking, and eventually the plant dries up and it will die. And I thought that this was incredibly symbolic, that if you let it flower, it will die. And so I wrote a poem about it. It's called Basil. So wise men laugh, and foolish men they cry, to see that all beginning has an end, that if you let it flower, it will die. Though we may never know the reason why, what's broken well, our hands can never mend. So wise men laugh, and foolish men they cry. So all that breathes must utter one last sigh, and all that speaks must one last message send, that if you let it flower, it will die. I tell you, friends, eternity's a lie. No tides will deign to wait, nor fortune's pen. So wise men laugh, and foolish men they cry. Thus Charon must his waters ever ply, and tween the oar strokes ripples stories winds, that if you let it flower, it will die. But I'll remind you, Icarus did fly, and life's well worth the fate it must portend. So wise men laugh, and foolish men they cry, that if you let it flower, it will die. Thank you. That's all I have for tonight.
I took my glasses off.
By the way, I should probably plug an event. Every Wednesday at the Phoenix Coffee House, starting at, I believe it's going from 7 to 10, there is a spoken word open mic, and I'm going to be the featured reader next week, which will be Wednesday, the first Wednesday in whatever month is coming up next. August, I guess it is. Yes. It's like the second or something. The next Wednesday. Come see it. Or come out every Wednesday. Yes. Something like that. My MySpace is myspace.com/goddess of blueberries. All one word. Yeah, you should find me. It's awesome.
I don't want to let her off here because she just brought something to mind.
Yeah, there's the blueberry story.
Danilee, get out of the way of that camera. Danilee's got to tell the blueberry story.
Sorry, buddy.
Okay, so since Steve brought it up, since I brought it up, I have to tell the story of the blueberries now and why my username is Goddess of Blueberries. So, a few summers ago, when I was still going to Oberlin College and staying in town for the summer, one of my other friends from college, who I met at some of the clubs there in sort of the bisexual and gay and etc., GLBT alliance, etc. groups, was also staying in Oberlin for the summer. And I'd had sort of a crush on her for a while. So I walked over to her house one day because she said, yeah, stop by sometime, we should hang out. And so we hung out for a little while, we were talking, and I kind of mentioned that I was interested in her and, you know, maybe hoping for some sort of type of summer fling, maybe. And she said, oh, I'm sorry, I kind of figured out that I'm not really bi, I'm just pretty much straight. I'm like, damn, this is why the lesbians at Oberlin never want to date us bi girls, because we're all flaky like this, except for me. But I didn't say that, and so I'm like, oh, okay, well, you know, I understand. And so I left, and I started to walk home. And the moment I step outside, it starts pouring rain. And I'm just looking up the sky going, oh, come on, universe, this is so cliche. I am now walking home in the rain after having been rejected by a woman. It's pathetic. So, with the cliches pelting me in the head and soaking through my clothes, I walk home, and on the way I'm walking through the center of town, and there's this little general store, the sort you find in college towns where everything is overpriced, but it's closer than any of the supermarkets, so people go there. It's called Gibson's. And so I decided to stop by and get a little moment's respite from the rain and see if they have any good Ben & Jerry's, because that's kind of just traditional. So I go back to the back of the store where they have the freezer cases, and their selection of Ben & Jerry's is pretty picked over. But I notice in their very tiny, very overpriced, very poor quality, generally, produce section, they have blueberries. And I look at the blueberries, and the price is not exorbitant. And the blueberries look okay. And I'm wary of them, but I figure, well, the Ben & Jerry's thing, they don't really have anything that looks all that delicious. I'll get some blueberries. So I go and buy the blueberries, and I head back outside into the rain, and as I'm walking home, I pop open the container of blueberries, and I pop one in my mouth. And as my teeth pierce through the skin, and the juice explodes on my tongue, I realize this is the sweetest, most perfect blueberry I have ever tasted. And so I try another. This one is one of those tiny little ones that you expect to be really bitter, but it's tart and it's tangy, and yet there's that little undercurrent of sweetness, and it's beautiful. And so I try another and another, and every single blueberry is round and beautiful and sweet and perfect. And you know how there's normally that moldy berry at the bottom and that mushy blueberry paste? It's not there. Every single blueberry is absolutely delicious. And I can't believe it. It's like a miracle has been sent to me by the Nature-Right Blueberry Corporation. And so I am standing there, and I just start laughing. Laughing at the rain hitting me in the head, and this woman who has just rejected me because, oops, she's straight. But the fact that I've just had the most perfect container of blueberries in the world, and somehow that makes everything better. And by this time, people are sort of starting to stop and stare at the crazy woman in the middle of the street, eating blueberries and laughing at the sky. And as if to explain this to them, I turn to them and say, the blueberries at Gibson's, they're delicious! And most of the crowd just sort of disperses at that, sort of ashamed to have been confronted by the crazy lady. Though one girl did walk into Gibson's afterwards, and I wonder if she tried the blueberries. And I wonder if her experience was anything like mine. But if so, that's her story, and I can't tell it. But I just continued my walk home, and I was still wet and kind of cold by this time. It was one of those cold summer rains you get in Ohio sometimes. And I was still sort of depressed about having been rejected by a woman, but I just had the best blueberries ever, and that made everything a lot better for me somehow. And so that's why my username, my name on MySpace is Goddess of Blueberries. Because I feel like that's sort of the purpose of art, that's the purpose of poetry, is to show people that one beautiful little moment, that one way of seeing the world that will make things somehow, despite everything, despite the women who reject you and the rain that makes you cold and wet and miserable, that life's pretty good all in all. There's blueberries, that's something.